Welcome one and all, Nyanko here, and today I'm here to talk about a book I just finished called The Dark Side. Now, it's by Danielle Steel, and yep, if you can see, I absolutely adore Danielle Steel's writing, and I've been reading her since I was like a teenager. I love how she handles topics and subjects that are usually considered taboo or no one's really talking about them, and then she's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's a problem, let's talk about this problem. So I'm going to start off by saying this book will definitely not be for everybody. It is a hell of a ride. Like, Jesus, like, I absolutely adored it. Okay, so basically I should probably start off by telling you about it. So I'll read you the back of it, okay? So Zoe Morgan's childhood was overshadowed by her younger sister's tragic illness. Watching as her parents dedicated themselves completely to her final days and then divorced. As a young woman driven by these painful memories, Zoe has exacting standards for herself, studying hard and pursuing a career in the non-profit world where her deep compassion for disadvantaged children finds a focus. When Zoe falls in love and has her own child, she is determined to be a perfect mother too, but before long, old, deeply buried scars begin to pull Zoe to the edge of an abyss too terrifying to contemplate. As Zoe is haunted by the ghosts of the past, her story will become a race against time and a tale of unforgettable psychological suspense. So, I mean, it gripped me from that. But yeah, basically, don't want to spoil, because it is a good book and I would highly recommend you read it. Okay, so basically the premise of the story is Zoe loses her little sister Rose when she is 10. Rose gets leukemia when she is about 3. Her mother gives her a blood transfusion. A bone marrow transplant at about 3 or 4. And then she gets better, but then the leukemia comes back and she dies by the age of 7. And the first time around, Zoe has her dad, and her dad supports her. And so basically the mum goes with Rose and the dad stays with Zoe. Through the first bout of everything, Zoe then has her life go back to normal because Rose gets better. She comes home, they continue on. Rose gets sick again, but this time Rose isn't getting better, and then Rose dies. And basically the mother falls into a deep pit of despair because of everything. She literally put her entire life on hold for Rose. And then the dad also falls into a deep pit of despair for about 2 years after Rose's death. The dad then comes out of it and goes to therapy to try and recover and recuperate, begs the mum to come with him to therapy, but she won't. She feels like it would be dishonourable to Rose to recover and go back to normal and live life as it was. So the mother doesn't, which is what causes the divorce. The mum then retreats even further, basically emotionally neglecting Zoe for the remainder of her years. She can't be there for Zoe, she can't give her any attention. She is literally just in bed for about 5 years. She then gets out of bed, goes back to work, but continues ignoring her other surviving daughter. And the dad remarries, has children quite quickly, and then one of the children especially looks a lot like Rose, so Zoe can't bring herself to be part of the family. Now, no one will get counselling for Zoe because they don't think that she needs it. And that's basically like where the story starts off, is Zoe. It kind of speed runs through Zoe's life after Rose's death up until the point where she meets the guy she falls in love with, who is called Austin. And so basically the story really begins when Austin meets Zoe and Zoe meets Austin. So up until that point, like, Zoe learned to live without any attention, without any love, and was basically, her dad abandoned her, remarried, moved on. Was still trying to be there, but the mum made it very, very clear that if she tried to have anything to do with the dad and the new family, that she was betraying her and betraying Zoe. Not Zoe, Rose. And Zoe's kind of caught in the middle between that. But then the mum doesn't do anything to try and be there for Zoe. So bless her, she's kind of floundering around on her own, especially through her, from 10 to she goes to college. She gets no love from her mum. she's very limited contact with her dad. You know, she then becomes a perfectionist to try and fill like the void inside of her. So she, you know, becomes valedictorian at school, gets the best scores, gets into the best colleges, thinks about going to medical school, and she does. She gets into medical school. She does 2 years of medical school, and then because she wants to try and cure children like her sister Rose, so that what happened to her will never happen to anyone else, then realizes that maybe medicine isn't for her, and then she goes off. She does get a degree, but then she goes off to work for the non-profit, which is mentioned at the back, which deals with abused and abandoned children. And she excels in this work. She's got a lot of empathy for the children. She understands what a lot of them are going through, because while she wasn't physically abused, she was emotionally abused in that sense. She was emotionally neglected and just left to herself, and nobody really, after the age of 10, no one really tried to invest in her and take care of her emotionally. And that's just as detrimental to a child as physically hurting them, which we see later on in the book. So yeah, she then meets Austin, who is a lawyer who works pro bono for her non-profit, and so he handles a lot of the cases for like children who need representation and trying to get them away from their parents and stuff like this. And then they fall in love, and they have a whirlwind, like they have a wonderful relationship, and they get married, and then they start trying for children. And originally they wanted like 3, but then it takes them a bit longer to get pregnant than they originally thought. They have to go through IVF, and then basically once Jamie, their little daughter, is born, they decide that 1 is enough for them. And yeah, basically the story really starts from there. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail about what happens, because I don't want to spoil in case you want to read it yourselves. But basically, in the beginning, Zoe is used to everything going her way, everything being perfect, being like amazing at it as soon as she tries. And motherhood is very hard for her, because she's always comparing herself to her own mother, and how much her own mother did for her sister. She idolises her mum, basically. It's like, this is what my mum did for my sister. She gave her all and she broke herself and she could never recover. So her idea of what a mother is very high. And then she struggles. Like, she struggles to breastfeed. She gets some very weird ideas in her head that, you know, trying to put baby on a schedule is abusive. You know, and doing on-demand feeding. Now, on-demand feeding is fine. And and putting a baby on a schedule isn't necessarily abusive. Babies need structure, you know. If you're feeding them every 20 minutes, you could be causing them to get like blocked air. And the fact that if they're feeding every 20 minutes usually means they're not getting enough to sustain them. So that needs looking into. But yeah, so basically Zoe really struggles with breastfeeding, and like basically just in the beginning struggles to take to motherhood. And so, in a sense, does Austin. He struggles to take to fatherhood, because... And it was quite nice to see the real dynamic between couples when a baby comes along. So everybody thinks, you know, you're going to have a baby, it's going to be this idyllic life of, you know, mum, dad, child, it's going to be picture perfect, it's going to be like the movies, it's not going to be difficult at all. And I really do like that about Danielle Steel's writing, is she's very good at showing that the movies are fantasy. You know, this is reality, and not everything is going to go to plan. Nothing is simple. So yeah, he struggles with the new addition, because suddenly his wife's focus is entirely on the baby, and before that focus was entirely on him, and his focus was entirely on her. Now, to be fair to Austin, he does come around, and he does realise that, you know, it's not forever, and, you know, things will progress and they will get back on track. It's just that this little baby needs so much attention and so much care, which is quite, again, you know, it is real. A lot of relationships actually do break up within the first year of having a new baby because of the strain it puts on a relationship. You know, your focus, instead of being on your partner 24/7 and what your partner needs and what your partner wants, and vice versa, suddenly it becomes what the baby needs, and the baby's needs trump everybody else's needs, because of course baby is defenseless. Baby needs mum to feed, change, look after, love, nurture. Also needs that from dad. You know, dad needs to, you know, love baby, give baby protection and stuff. And you do see it, that they struggle in the beginning, and then slowly things do start to get better after the first year. But there's a few hiccups along the way. And then the hiccups start because, so Austin is like, okay, everything's gone back to normal now. Things are progressing. You know, she's like, Jamie's getting older and Zoe's gone back to work, and things are starting to slowly return back to a normal dynamic in their relationship, just with the addition of Jamie. But then little things start happening. Falls start happening. Bumps on the head start happening. Broken bones that shouldn't have happened start happening. And it starts dislocated elbows here and there. You know, little things that aren't necessarily uncommon in children if they're very rambunctious, but that you know, you're like, oh, she's just, you know, so like, I try not to spoil. Really trying not to spoil. But yeah, so basically little things that Austin's like, oh, my nephews were never this injury prone. And, you know, the mum, so the mother-in-law is like, oh, that doesn't seem right. It's just small things in the beginning that, you know, you could put down to just clumsy child. Toddlers, you know, they fall, they can land oddly, they break. And the way it presents it at first is you start thinking that Rose's illness, the leukemia, that maybe Zoe had the gene, or it's a gene thing or genetics, and that like maybe Jamie has cancer like her auntie did that killed her auntie. And you start going, oh, maybe that's why she's breaking so many bones, you know? Maybe that's why she's, you know, this is happening and that's happening. And no, it's actually something a lot darker than that, and it's something that's never really talked about in general. Like, I've seen it covered a couple of times in shows like Chicago Fire, or, you know, sometimes in medical shows it will very, very occasionally get brought up, this particular illness or mental illness that ends up being like the focus of the book. Now, I don't want to spoil because it is such a good read, and I would highly recommend it. Now, I know it's not for everybody, and again, the topic is quite heavy, but it's such a good book. I really like reading heavy books, don't I? I'm gonna have to start reading some funner. Then again, I'm on a murder mystery again at the moment, so I'm like, oh my goodness, pick a book that's light-hearted and romantic. I need a new romance book, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been watching too many romance shows recently. I've then kind of gone towards the slightly darker books to kind of compensate for all the sweetness and light that I've been watching. I don't know, but I seem to like books that are really gritty and nitty and really like draw you in. Is like, this is something that is actually happening, and this could very much be happening to someone you know, and it's like, damn, that made me think, and I'm like, that broke my heart. No. So yeah, basically, do I spoil? Okay, if you want to read the book, don't watch past this part, okay? Just, I'm gonna spoil. It's okay, spoiler alert, I'm going to put it here. Don't watch past this if you don't want to know what happens and you want to read in the book, okay? Okay, so spoilers. Basically, it ends up being that the grandmother, so Zoe's mum has nothing to do with her, hasn't for years, doesn't even come and see Jamie, just kind of phones in every so often on Zoom because it's too painful for her to see Zoe, and it's too painful for her to see Jamie, and she just cannot be close to anybody else ever again. She's just that broken after Rose. The dad and his new wife come and visit quite a bit because he's still trying to have something to do with Zoe, and he loves Jamie. Now, the mum on that side, like the stepmom, is a psychologist. So basically, the dad married a psychiatrist. Sorry, and she's seeing something, but she doesn't mention anything. But then the mother, Austin's mother, starts noticing things that don't quite add up. So Zoe goes from being this super mom who catches sleep apnea when she's a baby, is always super attentive, is always there. But then suddenly some things don't add up. She won't let them put up a baby gate, and this is how Jamie falls down the stairs and breaks her arm and cuts her lip. It's because there was no baby gate. Now Austin covers for her and is like, we have to put up a baby gate. She's like, I never thought, that she'd do that, And she talks a lot about like respecting Jamie and how Jamie needs to be respected, and we can't forcibly tell a 2-year-old what to do. We need to talk to her reasonably and respect her values and stuff. And then it's like, oh yeah, but I left all the bleach and the cleaning products under the cupboard with no baby lock because I've told her not to do that. I've told her not to go near it, and she'll respect me. And then Austin's like, she's 2. You can't trust a 2-year-old with chemicals. It's only a matter of time before she gets in there and starts playing with it, possibly ingests it and dies, So then his mother, who's a psychologist, but never practiced any kind of psychology, but still keeps up on the reading, is like, I'm starting to worry. And Austin isn't quite ready to hear it just then. And then a couple of other things happen, like there's the 2 dislocated elbows that I mentioned. She falls off the changing table at like 4 months. There's the sleep apnea that happened. And then, so like Zoe starts getting very neurotic and is like, we need to take her to this, we need to take her to that, blah, 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 blah. And originally Austin's just like, this is trauma from losing her sister. She's just being hyper cautious about our daughter. She doesn't want to lose another child that she loves dearly. And you can be like, yeah, okay. But then the mother starts seeing the disconnect between hyper-aware hypervigilance, but then also a lot of the stuff that she does that's very, like, nonchalant, like, she's fine. It'll be grand. So, like, the day with the cleaning products in the kitchen, she comes in and she's like, would people just put the toilet seat down? Jamie could fall in and drown, kind of thing. But then leaves the kitchen cupboard full of dangerous chemicals that could kill her. That kind of disconnect. And then as it slowly rolls on, more and more things start happening, and Austin starts to see it more and more. Jamie's only ever getting hurt when Zoe's there. And Zoe is like super mum. So Zoe is like, gives her all and is instantly in the hospital and is always asking questions and seems like a very caring, attentive mother, but there's far too many injuries that are starting to add up. And then the mum comes to him and is like, hun, I think she's got Munchausen's by proxy, and it's very hard to diagnose and it's very hard to prove, and in a lot of cases it leads in the death of the child. So basically what Munchausen by proxy is mothers start craving attention and they want to be super mom. They want to be, the best mum there is. So they slowly start hurting their children or allowing situations to happen where the child will get hurt. So a broken wrist, a cut lip, a dog bite. And they end up in the hospital and they end up looking after them and they end up being, there and everything. But they're super mum. They crave the attention. They crave the glory of being the hero that saved the child. And this is what's happening with Zoe. Slowly, since, she never got the attention that she got when she was a child. She didn't get that love. She didn't get that fulfillment. So now she's craving it from outside sources, which is being super mum. I can be better than my mum. I'll do better than my mum. And so, yeah, she's slowly hurting Zoe. Zoe is slowly hurting Jamie in a way that is detrimental. And it gets worse and worse and worse. And it gets to the point where she gets reported to social services because Jamie gets a honey allergy. And it's a severe honey allergy that they never knew about. But in the hands of a mother with Munchausen's by proxy, it's a death sentence. So the husband had already informed the paediatrician. The paediatrician is then like, I need to go and talk about this with my psychiatry friend. And then he's like, look, now that she's got this allergy, and he also says that Zoe is a textbook case of Munchausen's by proxy, and is like, now that she has this honey allergy, you have to report this. We have to get that child away. It's only a matter of time before she dies, because Zoe's going to try and play God. Now, that does happen, and the only reason poor Jamie survives is because, for whatever reason, the paediatrician, Kathy, goes to the house that day and goes to visit, and Zoe's having a party with Jamie with cake. Now, a lot of cakes have honey in them. And she's hidden the labels and she's had the cake. And as she turns around from letting Kathy in, she sees Jamie taking big bites of the cake. She's about three and a half now. And she's like, no, don't do that. And then Kathy's like, why shouldn't she eat the cake? And suddenly Jamie falls to the floor, convulsing because she can't breathe, because there's honey in the cake, and she's having an even more severe allergic reaction than the first time, which she was warned about, but Zoe didn't listen. Because she was planning to be supermum. She was planning to let Jamie eat the cake, say that she didn't know there was no label on it, she didn't know there was honey in it, save her with the EpiPen. But the thing was, the EpiPen doesn't save her because it's such a severe reaction. And if Kathy, the paediatrician, hadn't been there to do the CPR, Jamie would have died. So they get to the hospital. Kathy texts Austin and the CPS dude and is like, come quickly, Jamie. And then to the CPS dude, he's like, bring cops. And they arrest Zoe. And suddenly this really nice facade of like, I'm the best mum ever breaks. And she becomes like this demon monster. And they all say that, like, she goes cold-hearted. And she's like, I was going to save her. You got in my way. I was going to be, you know, the one that rescued her. And the book basically ends with Austin and Jamie and him trying to figure out how he's ever going to tell his daughter that the mum that she idolised and adored tried to kill her. And it ends with like the judge as well basically being like, you're sane, you're competent, we're going to try you for attempted murder and you're going to go away for life. And basically Austin's going to... It leaves the book that basically Austin is going to get full parental control over Jamie. Zoe's going to have her rights terminated. And yeah, it's a happy ending in that sense, when it could have very easily been a devastating end. And oh my god, it was a wild ride of a read, because originally you're reading it going, okay, she's neurotic because of what happened with her sister. And then you're going, could Jamie have leukemia? Is it going to be, you know, a race to save her life because of that? And then it's like, oh no, Munchausen's by proxy. And you're like, I did not see that coming, but it is a serious condition and it doesn't get talked about enough. And you're going, oh my god, how's this going to end? What's going to happen? And then especially with the honey allergy, and everybody else is convinced, and you're like, oh no. And then suddenly it's like, because before that, nothing had ever really been shown from like Zoe's point of view in the sense of the injuries. It was just, I was playing with her and her arm popped out, you know? And it's always genuine shock and surprise. And then, oh, it's such good writing. Like, Danielle Steel has some of the best writing I've ever read. She's one of my favourite authors of all time. And just definitely pick up one of her books. There's one of them somewhere that will draw your intrigue and stuff. So yes, I highly recommend The Dark Side. Like I said, it's an amazing ride. It's a great read. It actually made me like cry, and I kept wanting to put the book down because I was like, no, I can't take this, but I must find out what's happening next time. But oh no, I can't. And I struggle with things like that when it comes to children and mothers and children, because I'm like, I just can't understand how a mum could want to hurt their child just so that they could play God, you know? That just, to me, there's no connect, you know? In my mind, a mum is a wonderful person who goes above and beyond for their children, but never hurts their children for their own sake, you know? And I know that's not the case in a lot of things, and you hear the stories all the time in the news. Mum allowed boyfriend to kill toddler because blah blah blah, and I just can't. That to me is heartbreaking, because the whole job of being a mum is to make sure that this little life grows up and has the best that you can give them so that they can have the best life possible. So yeah, for me, The Dark Side was a good read in that sense, because it really showed the dad in a good light, actually, and showed that, you know, dads can be awesome too. And I actually think Austin is the true hero of this book, because even though he's like, I love my wife, she is amazing, he's like, this doesn't add up and I need to protect my daughter. You know, he doesn't just turn a blind eye and keep allowing Jamie to get hurt. He realises, no, maybe I need to sacrifice my marriage, I need to throw this person away for my child's sake. And I was like, true MVP, because it doesn't happen a lot of the time. Dads are like, oh no, the mum knows best, and they're just, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of good dads out there, and I think dads get crapped upon a lot. So big shout out to all the amazing dads out there, be you stepdads, be you adopted dads, be you real dad, like biological dads. Kudos to you. Keep doing the good fight, you know, keep proving people wrong, you know, keep making people see that dads are good too. But yeah, I've probably rambled enough for this video. Definitely go and get a hold of a copy of Danielle Steel's The Dark Side. If you can find like a Kindle edition, I would highly recommend. Again, I know it's probably not for everybody, so if it's not for you, don't feel bad. You know, just, you know, skip over it. Like I said, I know it's not for everybody. I just happen to really enjoy it, so I decided to make a video on it. But other than that, my kittens, all my love. Take care of yourselves. Remember, eat something, drink something, and don't forget any medication if you're on it. And I will see you in my next video. Ciao!